In this video, we're going to be talking about the second part of the localized electron model. So remember that the first part of the model is describing the arrangement of the valence electrons in a molecule using Lewis structures. And so the second part is describing the shape or geometry of the molecule, how it's actually arranged in 3D space. And to do this, we use something called the valence shell electron pair repulsion model. And so this model is used to predict the molecular structure. And it's based on the assumption that the electrons will arrange themselves so that the electron pairs minimize the repulsions between each other. Because remember, when charged objects repel each other, it creates positive electric potential energy, and molecules want to achieve the lowest possible energy level. So they want to get rid of these repulsions as much as possible. So basically, the electron pairs will spread out as far and evenly as possible to minimize these repulsions. And also, lone pairs need more room than bonding pairs. So, since they take up more space, they will tend to squeeze the other bonding pairs together. So, the simplest shape is called linear, and this is just two bonding pairs, as you can see here. And so, the arrangement that will get these two bonding pairs as far apart as possible is just a 180-degree angle between them. And linear can also be between just two atoms, where you just have one bonding pair. So next we have trigonal planar, which is three bonding pairs. And so to spread out as evenly as possible, the three bonding pairs will arrange themselves in kind of an equilateral triangle. So the angle between each bonding pair will be 120 degrees. And so when we have planar in the structure name, that means it's flat, two-dimensional. So keep that in mind as we go into some of the three-dimensional shapes. So the first one is tetrahedral, and this is just four bonding pairs. So tetrahedral is a pyramid with an equilateral triangle as a base. And so this bonding pair over here is the apex of the pyramid, while the carbon, the central atom, is in the middle. And so the angle between each of these bonding pairs in a tetrahedral arrangement is 109.5 degrees. So we can also have a tetrahedral shape, but say the apex, instead of a bonding pair, this space is taken up by a lone pair. And that's what happens in a trigonal pyramid. We have three bonding pairs that make up the base of this pyramid, and then at the top we have a lone pair. And so remember that lone pairs take up more space, so it squeezes these three bonding pairs on the bottom more closely together than in a standard tetrahedral arrangement. So while here the angles between each bond is 109.5 degrees, in trigonal pyramid the lone pair will squeeze them together into an angle of 107 degrees. So bent is kind of two separate bent structures. The first, the more standard one, you can see it's kind of the same tetrahedral arrangement, except now we have two lone pairs. So one of these lone pairs is on the apex of the pyramid, while another takes the place of one of the base bonding pairs that we saw in these other two tetrahedral arrangements. And the most common example of the bent structure is water, H2O. So here, the angle between each of these bonding pairs and lone pairs in the bent arrangement is 104.5 degrees. So the other possibility of a bent structure is more like a trigonal planar arrangement, where one of these bonding pairs is taken up by a lone pair. So you can see the angle between them is 120 degrees, just like in trigonal planar. The only difference is that one of these bonds is taken up by a lone pair. The next structure is trigonal bipyramid. So this has 5 bonding pairs. So you can see 3 of them are arranged in a trigonal planar fashion. They're flat in an equilateral triangle. So you can see this angle is 120 degrees. And so these 3 chlorines make a flat triangle, while these 2 chlorines on top and bottom poke out perpendicular to this flat triangle. So the angle between these 2 chlorines is 90 degrees, and the angle between the 2 chlorines on the top and bottom is 180. So you can also think of it as 2 pyramids that have a triangular base stacked on top of each other. And so next we have an octahedral shape. And an octahedral has 6 bonding pairs. So you can see these 4 chlorines over here are arranged in a flat square, while these 2 chlorines on top and bottom poke out perpendicular to this flat square. So again, you can think of it as 2 pyramids back to back, except here the pyramids have a square base instead of a triangular base. So those are the most common shapes that you'll definitely have to know. If you want to look at some of the other shapes, they're on the notes sheet, but I will not go over them in this video. So 2 more points to remember when using this model. We count double and triple bonds as one bonding pair. For example, in this SO2 model, this is kind of a trigonal planar shape, so there's basically 3 spaces. One is taken up by this lone pair, one is taken up by this single bond, and one is taken up by this double bond. So this double bond fits into one space. We don't count it as 2 separate bonds. If we counted it as 2 separate bonds, then this would have 3 bonding pairs and 1 lone pair, so it would be more of a trigonal pyramid, but that's not the case. We just count it as 1 bond. And also, we can use any resonance structure to predict the molecular structure. Again, if we look at SO2, the double bond could be on this bond too, but it doesn't matter. It's still the same shape.